Fallout Equestria the Chrysalis, Chapter 28, Part 2.
It's almost inspirational, you know? All these horrible things she has to deal with, but she's still always there to help. She's nice, and she's smart, and she's really good at what she does. She's an amazing friend.
A long pause.
Yeah, I don't know what other ponies will think of changelings, but Whisper's a good one.
Another pause.
She's also a nosy little sneak that likes to eavesdrop on ponies.
Her head turned, shooting a look of mock disapproval in my direction, though the look was spoiled by her smirk. I winced, then slowly stepped out from behind the bush, giving an awkward and embarrassed smile, despite my concern over the situation. Starlight held her smirk for a second before turning back to her pit buck.
Anyway, I guess that's a good start. I'll have to record some more next time, so until then, good night.
She pressed a button on her pit buck, a faint click sounding in the night. With that concluded, I spoke up.
What was that?
She gave a soft chuckle and shrugged.
I don't know, it's silly.
I continued to slowly approach, trying to force myself to relax. At the very least, I kept my voice leveled.
Oh? Yeah.
She said, leaning her head back.
I was thinking of my mom, you know, because of all that stuff earlier. I got thinking about my pet book and the recording she made for me, and I just thought I should record, well, something. You know, leave something of me there.
She gently stroked a hoof along her pet buck, then shrugged.
I tried doing it like she did, but I don't know, it didn't really feel right. Not like wrong, just maybe a little cheesy, I guess. I couldn't do it like she could. I couldn't really figure out what to say, but I wanted to record something. So I figured just start talking, see what happens. Guess it kind of turned into a diary pretty quickly. A diary?
Of course that's what she was doing. I let out a sigh, relaxing, though I did my best to hide my reaction.
Yeah.
She said, setting her hoof down and leaning back.
Just kind of going over things. Talking about what happened, you guys, stuff like that. I don't know, I might just delete the whole thing later, or try recording it again a little more planned out, but...
She cracked a smile.
I think it helped. Like, I feel better, just recording all that. Kinda like... Well, I'm not my mom, but I'm doing my own thing, right? I suppose that makes sense.
I said, stopping beside her rock.
And talking about things is a good way to deal with them. Yeah?
She said again, then fell silent in thought. Eventually she turned to me. Her expression had turned serious, maybe even concerned.
Maybe you should do that too. What?
I raised a brow questioningly.
A diary? I've never really seen the point. Besides, it's kind of a bad idea for an infiltrator to keep records of all their actions. Maybe in a secure location like the Hive, but not a pit book any pony could take from me.
She fidgeted a little, looking away for a moment before turning back.
I don't really mean like that, just... I've been thinking.
I frowned a little. Something about that seemed ominous.
About what? Well...
She paused, biting her lip before finally speaking.
This whole Serenity thing. Ponies have no idea what's coming. They're never gonna see it before it's too late, unless...
She must have seen my ears drooping because she quickly added.
And I know the whole secrecy thing helps you too, but I mean... ending the reign of ponies? How many are gonna suffer because of that?
I sighed and sat down, slowly shaking my head.
I know, but... it's not just me. It's hopefully not just me. If there's any more of my hive out there, any decision I make will affect them too. I can't just do that to them. And what if Serenity takes over?
Starlight asked. My ears were already hanging low. I felt like curling up in myself, but I didn't speak.
And how much worse is it going to be for your hive?
Starlight continued.
If all that ponies know about changelings comes from Serenity, it'll be bad.
I murmured.
Yeah.
She said.
So, maybe it'd be better if you were the one to tell ponies all about that. Look, I know. I'm trying to figure out some way of helping everyone, but I don't know how. Ponies... Yeah, they probably need to know. About Serenity, anyway. I just don't know if that's going to help.
We fell silent for several long seconds before I added,
I'll think about it. We've got until we're done with Baltimore before it matters. I'll have something by then.
She slowly nodded, and after another moment of silence, glanced to her pip book.
I've got another half hour on my watch. Get some more sleep. I'll wake you up when it's time. I might as well take over now. You've got to drive. I'll just take a nap in the back again.
I heaved a deep sigh.
Besides, I don't think I could get back to sleep before you'd be waking me up again.
Starlight slid down from the rock and stepped up to me, her expression concerned. Finally, she nodded.
Okay.
She slipped in, wrapping me in a tight hug. We held that for a couple of seconds before she drew back, her face passing right before mine, and kissed me softly on the lips. Between the weight on my mind and the unexpected action, I didn't have time to return the gesture before she was drawing back again. She looked at me with a soft, almost sad smile.
See you in the morning. See you.
I weakly echoed. She slipped by me, slowly picking her way back to the camp. I watched her go until she settled into the camp itself. Then I turned, wings fluttering as I lifted up, landing atop the rock she had just vacated. I rolled to my side, laid down, and waited. And waited. And waited. The night was seemingly empty, leaving me with nothing but my own thoughts, which was little comfort. I simply lay there, eyes scanning out across the desolate and uneventful landscape, barely visible, even with my night-adapted eyes. Guard duty was always dull, but this was by far the worst it had ever been. I made the mistake of checking the clock on Emerald's pip book. Only half an hour passed. I suppressed a sigh and laid my head back. 1/5 of the way there. A couple of minutes later, I raised the pip book again. I stared at the screen for a long time, my thoughts stuck in a formless haze of indecision. I could come up with so many arguments for or against it, but to tell the truth, the deciding factor was that I simply didn't have anything better to do. I lethargically pressed a few buttons, creating and naming a new directory, and starting up a new audio file. The final press started the recording, and then... nothing. I stared at the timer slowly counting up as I tried to come up with what to say. It was at 30 seconds when I finally managed to come up with something.
Dear diary... Ugh, no.
My hoof stabbed at a button, ending the recording, and I quickly deleted the aborted attempt. Soon, I had a fresh file. Once again, I watched the time slowly work its way higher and higher. It got to 2 minutes before it stopped again. Again, I started over. This time, I just stared at the screen, the file waiting for me. I stared and thought, trying to figure out where to even begin. Finally, and reluctantly, I pressed the button to start recording.
Well, I suppose if I have to start somewhere, it would be the day I was... reborn.
So that's how I came to start making these recordings. A simple, reluctant tale recorded on my pip book in the middle of the dark and silent night. I didn't do it all at once, of course. I didn't even finish my first day in the wasteland during that watch. And I ended up going back to touch up on some parts later on, but I got the bulk of it down. There I was, stuck in a bad situation that was only likely to get worse. Feeling lost, confused, and maybe even a little depressed. And I was retelling what was probably the single worst moment of my life. And you know what? It helped. Recalling how all of this started highlighted a perspective that I had allowed to slip away into obscurity, but which seemed particularly relevant now. It was the perspective of facing some monumental challenge that I felt too small to handle. While that first recording hadn't gotten past the first day, it sent me thinking on the day that followed. My brutal first introduction to the horrors of the wasteland. I had been practically helpless. I had little idea of where I was going. I had only enough love to survive a few days. I had no way to protect myself and nearly ran myself to death trying to flee a band of homicidal psychopaths. Starlight saved my life. She gave me a source of love to stave off the hunger. She gave me knowledge of the wasteland. She gave me a measure of protection, strength, and versatility. With another pony at my side, I could survive in the wasteland. The two of us together were stronger than either of us alone. Then soon became three. With Dusty, we could thrive in the wasteland. Then three became four. With Sickle, we wiped out multiple raider gangs, ones far exceeding the group that had sent Starlight and myself fleeing for our lives. Now, there was a new threat looming. A threat vastly beyond us, one great enough that it was hard to even conceptualize of how to deal with it. One that might put every pony and changeling in danger. One that knew all about us, and had every reason to destroy us. The four of us wouldn't survive Serenity, but what about 5? And if not 5, how about 6? 7? 8? With enough friends and allies, any threat becomes that much smaller. One thing's for sure, if you're not comfortable with your voice, try to record it and hear yourself. After a while, you'll get used to it. Anywho, let's get on to our survivors of donators. Top donators: Jessie Smith, Zar630, BadassWaffle, Onlyonething, Ceru, Orion, and Caladis. Matchback Jock, Rayden, Runescythe, Will, Twinkie, Luigi, Chancellor, Crust, Big Smoke, Murder Princess, LILmighty, Symphony, and many more amazing people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.